Hi guys, Jamie from Boxing Life, and welcome back to another episode of Fight Thoughts. And with so many fights around the corner this weekend, especially, and even in April as well, I thought I'd just do a podcast for this and also bring on a guest. And he's been on the channel before, not for a while, but it's great to have him back. And it's Josh from the Good Boxing Podcast. How's it going, Josh? You good?
Yeah, everything's going pretty well. Thank you for having me back, and it feels good to be back.
No, it's awesome. No, it's great to have you on again. Enjoyed bringing you on before. We had some good chats about obviously boxing and other stuff
Yeah,
as well. So it's good to have you back on, man.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome. So got a big April ahead of us, and yeah, quite a lot of fights, especially this weekend. And I guess the first card is on Friday night, and it's Valdez versus Wilson. And
hmm
I think it's an interesting fight for Valdez. You know, obviously lost to Navarrete,
Yeah,
and Wilson also gave Navarrete a really good fight. That like he obviously knocked him down twice, I think, maybe only once. I can't remember, but it was a really good fight. But
it
and then
was.
Valdez and Navarrete, that was also an amazing fight as well. So. No, I'm actually quite looking forward to stylistically. I think that could be quite a good fight, but I think for Oscar Valdez, this is kind of a fight here. He really needs to prove a point if he wants to get back into contention for a world title again. So, yeah, no, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that fight, Josh.
Agreed. Oscar Valdez, I I'm happy he fought Shakur Stevenson, but ever since that fight, clearly you've seen kind of a downgrade in his performances.
Yeah.
I do think Oscar Valdez has tremendous talent. I think he has good pressure, and I think he can box pretty well. I do expect in this matchup for Oscar Valdez to make a good, strong statement. Um, as you know, triangle theories kind of always just play weird when different guys fight one another. One guy can do well against another person, and then another person could do well against another person. In this case, I think Valdez is, in my opinion, the fighter with the superior skills, and I do think he's going to get Wilson out of there. Um, I could be wrong. I've been kind of shaky lately on the predictions. It's been a while, but for the most part, based on what I've seen, I think Valdez will get the job done. I think he's training very hard, and like you said, when a man's on his last pretty much legs for a career, he's going to do whatever he can essentially to try to grasp that position back in his career. I don't really see Wilson being able to pull this one off, but hey, he had a great fight with Navarrete, and you saw what Navarrete did to Valdez. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think I never like discrediting fighters too much because, you know, they've always got a
Yeah,
chance. And I
of
think,
course.
and just going off that, you know, that performance of Navarrete, I think he does have, you know, he does have something in him to be able to cause some
Mhm.
problems. And
True.
yeah, you never know. He might, you know, he might be able to, you know, because I believe he has a bigger reach advantage as well than Valdez. Valdez will need to put the pressure on. Um, but yeah, I think, you know, it'll be an interesting fight stylistically. And yeah, no, I think it will be a good fight. Just mainly, I just quite like watching Oscar Valdez. I think he's quite an entertaining fighter to watch because you know, he does bring the heat, I guess. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'll be looking forward to that one.
And I
Uh,
don't want to sit here and I don't want you to think I'm like discrediting Wilson. I I guess when it came to the prediction, I just wanted to be like kind of direct and
yeah,
forthcoming. I do think it's going to be a good fight, and I think Wilson definitely belongs in there. And no disrespect, unfortunately, there just has to be a winner and a loser. And when it comes to the prediction, I don't really like doing the play both sides. Like it's going to be a good fight. It is
yeah,
going to be a great fight. I think it could be. And Wilson earned the opportunity, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
there's every fighter is dangerous, as you saw with Fury and Ngannou. I still have the the stink of that one on my prediction. I remember saying I can't believe like this fight's going on, and then he
Yeah.
has a split decision. So ever since that fight, I will definitely be a little more humble with the pick. But yeah, for this one, I'm probably leaning more towards Valdez than Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you there, Josh, as well. I think Valdez should get the victory on Friday. And I guess the other fight is the co-main event with Estrada and is it Valle? I think that's how you pronounce her name. And I know you're more
I believe
familiar.
so.
I know you're more familiar with the women's scene than I am anyway. And yeah, I think Estrada, yeah, she's a good fighter as well. I don't know too much about them, but yeah, it'd be great to hear your thoughts on those two. And it's been a bit fiery in the build up as well. That's the other thing. So I'm sure they'll be both wanting to get the victory.
Exactly. Yes. Seniesa Estrada is, in terms of like potential, she's a very formidable fighter for anyone. She has a tremendous skill set, tremendous hand speed, good boxing IQ, and she brings the pressure and truthfully, she has a great amateur pedigree as well. In this one, I do think it's going to be her first true test. I mean, most people know Seniesa through that one devastating KO. I actually
Yeah,
posted that one recently where
yeah,
she
yeah.
destroyed that girl in the first round. It was like, what, 8 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I don't feel like she's had that. Again, not to discredit her, she can only fight who's in front of her, right? It's the promoter's job to move them along the way they want them to and what they want. But she still hasn't had that really big staple fight. And I think
Yeah,
this particular fight with Valle should be that one. Valle
yeah,
is an incredible fighter, especially for women's boxing, where I'm not discrediting the women's boxing scene, but sometimes being a champion doesn't really mean as much as it does in the men's scene.
yeah,
You've seen some title fights where the boxing ability sometimes is skewed in one direction. I mean,
yeah,
look at the Shields and Hammer fight where they were making it seem like that was going to be the greatest fight in women's history, and Shields destroyed Hammer. It wasn't even like
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't close. In this one, I do expect a back and forth, but I have to go with Seniesa Estrada. I like her style. I like the fact that she enjoys to really engage. And in
mm-hmm.
terms of women's boxing, this is a very good fight between these two. I expect it to be a good one. And yeah, you just can't go against Estrada, in my opinion, until
Yeah,
someone proves her otherwise or exposes an aspect of her game that
yeah,
we haven't seen yet. For right now, I have to go with Estrada. It's going to be a great card, though, overall. I
yeah,
mean, you have that first fight we were talking about, and
yeah.
this one, like that's incredible.
Uh, Next up, we've also got Tim Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora, which I guess he obviously replaced. He came in to replace Keith Thurman, who got an
Mm,
injury to his bicep, I believe.
poor
And
Thurman.
yeah, one-time Thurman, as they say.
Yeah,
And yeah, I guess PBC they didn't want to cancel the event and delay it any further. It's their first kind of partnership with Amazon Prime as well, so there was that pressure to kind of deliver something. And Sebastian Fundora steps in. Personally, I think this is a much harder fight for Tim Tszyu than the Thurman fight stylistically. I think Fundora has his faults, but he's going to give anyone a tricky fight. He's 6'6". He's a southpaw. He likes fighting on the inside, despite his height and reach advantage. And
true.
he knows how to bang as well on the inside. However, he does expose himself in some instances on the inside. But yeah, I think this is going to be a tough fight for Tim Tszyu personally. But yeah, Josh, I'd love to hear what you think about this fight.
I actually echo that same sentiment. In terms of difficulty, I I do think it's a very different fight for Tim Tszyu. I was very interested to see what Keith Thurman had in him left. we haven't seen much left of him. But that Barrios win looks so much better after Barrios defeated. Why am I drawing a blank for a second?
I know.
It'll come to
Who
me.
did? Who did
Yeah,
he?
he fought Errol Spence, the guy that got knocked out by Errol Spence.
Ugas.
Ugas. There you
go. Ugas. There we go. I knew
sorry
Ugas.
about that.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he fought. Ugas. Yeah.
And he beat Ugas, and that win looks so much better for Keith Thurman because Barrios was supposed to be like a tune-up for him, and people were saying, like, "Oh, you took him the whole 12 rounds. Why were you boxing so much?" But now that Barrios beat Ugas, I feel like that was a better win. And I also wanted to see more or less if Keith Thurman could get back in the picture to make some more fights for PBC. But yeah, fortunately, Sebastian Fundora, like you said, tremendous pressure fighter. He has some tremendous wins in the division, and I think you're right. I think him and Tszyu are going to be a fantastic matchup. I do favor Tszyu. At first, I wasn't particularly too excited about Tszyu. I thought it was a little too straight up and basic. Even he says he gets criticism for being basic, but he's a tremendous fighter. I've been watching more tape of him, especially in preparation for this fight week, and to see who more or less would win. And I think Tszyu and Terrence Crawford are the fight. Is the fight in this division. I really do. I'm fancying Tszyu to get the job done. I think he's going to stop Fundora, and it's might be probably the 6th or 7th round, but it's hard to predict when that stuff kind of happens. But I think he's going to stop Fundora. But kudos to Fundora for stepping in because PBC, the last thing they wanted on their first Amazon Prime showcase is a cancellation or a postponement. So
exactly.
Good for them.
No, I think it's like I expect as well Tszyu to get the job done, as you said, kind of maybe in the later rounds. I think as much as some like Fundora, he does like to fight in the inside. You never know, he might change up. Obviously, Tszyu beat Mendoza recently. It's just Tszyu is very good on the inside compared to even Mendoza, I feel, and I can just see him, really battering the body of Fundora on the inside, and Fundora as well. What I've like just from studying film as well off him, he does a good job actually protecting his body of all things, because he kind of goes into like a shoulder roll stance on the inside to kind of basically protect his body, which makes sense for being that, for having such a large frame. But
sure,
I just think Tszyu, he's quite versatile on the inside. You'll throw uppercuts with either hand, hooks to the body before going up top. I guess it comes down to the because it is such a weird in terms of the physical of both men, him being the much shorter guy and Fundora being so big. You guys saw the picture. It's ridiculous. 6'6", and he's fighting 154 pounds. It's just bizarre. But yeah, I hope it's a good fight. I think personally, I still think it's going to be a tougher fight for Tim. And I would love to see him, as you said, go on to maybe face someone like Terrence Crawford, or maybe the fight I'd like to see him go on to face is Virgil Ortiz. I'd love to see that fight. Yeah. I think stylistically that could be an amazing fight, and they're quite similar as well in their approach in the ring. So it could be a classic. But yeah, I think if he gets past Fundora this weekend, I think definitely Terrence Crawford's on the card for him. But it's we'll see what happens. But yeah, it should be a good fight.
Yeah, it's such a shame Charlo fought Canelo. I mean, it was great for him. He got his payday, but in terms of legacy at 154, I wanted either Crawford or Tszyu to really challenge him for that undisputed. Unfortunately, he got stripped, and now other people have the belts. But I also would like to see Charlo in that mix if he wants to go back down to 154. I'm not sure what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
But
would you still like to see Charlo Crawford, despite
oh
all
yeah,
the,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. You can tell there's some bad blood in that matchup, and
Mm-hmm.
Charlo, again, no shame in losing to Canelo,
Mm-hmm.
moving up 2 weight divisions, and I don't want to sit here and say he went into survival mode because I respect Charlo. He got knocked down, he got up, and he finished the fight. I think he tried to win, and sometimes you just fight someone that is way better than you expected,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I've been a big critic of Canelo, and I've been wrong so many times and picking against Canelo, and then now seeing his skill set and just seeing that matchup with Charlo, I think Charlo still deserves to get some big fights in that division. And Crawford, Charlo, Tszyu, Charlo, that'll be a good little
Yeah.
mix of fighters at 154. And then you also mentioned Virgil Ortiz, who is back on his run. He was out for so long with his illness. That
Mm-hmm.
was unfortunate. And hopefully at 154, he holds up better. And he can really, really make this division interesting, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think 154 has the potential to really be a good division. Some big
Agreed.
fights, especially with Terence Crawford now moving up. And and I guess the other I doubt it won't happen now, but obviously Errol Spence as well, what happens to
True.
him? Could he move up to 154 pounds potentially?
Yeah, I was
It's
just
a
hearing.
possibility. So sorry, what were you
Yeah,
off you go, Josh?
I'm sorry. I was just hearing he split with Derek James,
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
and and I think he wants to, like, James wants him to fight Terence Crawford, but James is like, you only want to fight Terence Crawford. Spence kind of wants to go in the division and fight some different people. So maybe you're right. Maybe he'll move up to 54 and get some more fights. That would be a stacked division.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you never know, if obviously the Spence team were, saying about, cutting weight down to 147 pounds was a big issue. And,
Mhm.
who knows, maybe I know they're kind of, I wouldn't say they're at the tail end of their career, or maybe Crawford is more so than Spence. But, I, I feel not sorry for Spence, but ever since
Yeah,
that defeat, I feel like a lot of people have just been giving him so much shit, saying he's done. And it's like, that's his only defeat in his whole career is against Terence Crawford, who's arguably the best of this generation. And,
agreed.
come on, give the guy a chance, let him move up to 154 or even middleweight potentially. There's some big fights out there still. And he can come back, and I can see him becoming a 2-3 weight world champion if he wants it, though. That's the thing. Because I believe he's like 33 now. I think he's still got another few years left in the tank anyway. But I guess there's the car crash. There's also that that was a bad beating he got from Crawford, and it's
Really
how much.
bad.
Yeah, exactly, and it's how much does he want it, I guess. But I would like to see him come back and give it a go. I think as much as he did, lose quite badly, I think he has potential to, get some big fights still. So, yeah, no, I know we've kind of gone off topic, but 154
No, you're
pounds,
right.
154 pounds, as you said, Josh, it's such an exciting division, potentially going forward. So, yeah. So, final prediction for.
Side with Tszyu, I think he gets the stoppage, unless Fundora decides to use his attributes and move around the ring, and we get to see if he can keep Tszyu at bay. But in that Harrison fight, I think Tszyu showed tremendous ability to cut the ring off, and his
Yeah.
pressure is really, really good. I thought it was a little overrated at first when I was hearing like, "Oh, Tszyu." I was more invested in Charlo and Castano and those guys. I thought they were the creme de la creme, and Tszyu was just getting matched up with fighters that could show his abilities. But yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
I have no quarrels with his boxing style. I think he's a tremendous fighter, and I think he's going to get the job done.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of the same as you, Josh. I think as the fight goes on and the inside work of Tszyu, I think is going to, the investment early in the fight from him, I think will pay off, and the pressure as well. Because Fundora, as much as I do rate him, I think, once the pressure starts to get put on him, we saw it in the Lubin fight, even I know he won it, and even Mendoza, and that overhand, the overhand shot against him is something to look out for that. So yeah, I think Tszyu will get this one. And moving on to the next fight, we've got Rolly versus Cruz, which I'm actually really looking forward to this fight.
Me too.
I think, Rolly, ever since the Tank fight, he obviously fought Barroso, I think his name is. He's from, I believe that's his name, from Venezuela or something like that. Yeah, or Colombia. I can't remember. Somewhere in South America, but he probably should have won that fight. I believe, that was very harsh, and Rolly needs to really prove a point in this fight against Cruz, who is just a tremendous fighter. He's just come forward, action packed, non-stop. Mexican. He's not gonna let Rolly breathe for a second. And I believe with Cruz, he really needs to, with Rolly, sorry, he needs to get him to respect his power early, like really early in this fight. Otherwise, Cruz is just going to be a pit bull for the full 12 rounds. He's going to be non-stop. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Josh.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this fight. I think it's a good main event, right? Or he's the co-main. I guess the
co-main. Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of questions that both fighters have to answer in this one.
Yeah.
I think this is truly a 50-50 fight. If it took place at 135, I think I would lean more towards Cruz. But at 140, I think Rolly is a bigger guy. You see the mass. You see that he's not as weight drained as he was when he fought Tank at 135.
Yeah.
Where he had to really cut weight. I think the reason why I'm leaning a little more towards Rolly is, one, he changed trainers. I feel like that was a tremendous move for him. He went back to Ismael Salas.
Yeah.
So he has a better corner. I think they're really focusing on making him a little more fundamental. And Rolly, while being a little awkward at times and being a little rough around the edges when he boxes, he's not as smooth as like a Teofimo or Tank, where you see that they have that natural body rhythm in the ring. He's a little more tight and a little more stiff. I think Ismael Salas is going to open that up for him. And I became more of a believer in Rolly in this fight after watching Cruz's last fight, where he actually almost lost that fight. It was a split decision. I didn't think it was as close as the judges did. I thought Cruz won early, but that guy took hella shots from Cruz.
Yeah, was it Carbera? Was that his name? Carbera?
I think it was Giovanni.
Yeah, I think it's I think it was Carbera or something like along those lines.
Yeah, and in that fight, his ability to move, you saw that. I don't know if he was just trying to get him out of there. Oh, Cabrera. Okay, Giovanni Cabrera.
Yeah.
We're both right. Yeah, in that fight, I felt like Cruz either one got overly confident when he hurt Cabrera, and he just went out there and just tried to knock him out and make a statement. But he was getting outboxed out there pretty badly at certain points. And Cruz, you know what he's coming with. You know he's going to bring the pressure. You know he has a good chin. You know he's been in there with world class talent. He's taken shots from Gervonta Davis. You know what he's bringing, but he is tremendously shorter than Rolly Romero.
Yeah.
I think apparently Rolly had a back injury that was bothering him for a while. Going into the Barroso fight.
Yeah.
So it took a long time off, and hopefully he feels better and can put on a tremendous performance. I'm not going to sit here and say I love Rolly Romero in this fight, but I am leaning like 60-40 Rolly Cruz. I just feel like at 140, Cruz is a little too short, and like his power moving up is it's hard to move up 2 divisions or a full division, where Rolly is, I think, like 6 inches taller than him, or like 5 or 4 inches taller than him. He has the muscle mass. Rolly is like cut at 140, so I think he's going to be able to move and have enough power to keep Cruz off of him. And I'm leaning towards Rolly.
Okay, interesting. I'm kind of not the opposite, but I think I can see your point actually around the size difference. I think it will be obviously pretty noticeable when they're in the ring with each other,
sure.
And Cruz is quite a small. He's small at the end of the day, and I think he relies on that kind of pressure, high guard style, walking you down.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, I think if Rolly can, maybe just be a bit, more defensively sound, as you said, he's brought in Salas to maybe help in that area. And, can he maybe counter him early with a big one that just makes Cruz a bit more hesitant in terms of coming into range? I can see how the fight can play out. It will either be, Cruz just relentless at the start and starts to maybe tire a little bit, and then Rolly kind of comes into it. But you never know with Rolly, like we saw in that last fight with him, he just kind of, it was like he just folded. He just let, and Barroso, he's a very underrated guy, actually. When you look at his career, he gives guys tough fights all the time. And he's like, I believe he's like 38, 39. And
he's 41.
Was he 41? Is that it? Jeez.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was that old. Yeah. And
I know he was. That was
felt
insane.
And he was giving, obviously the ref called it off. I felt he was giving
stoppage, but
horrible stoppage, but he was actually giving Rolly a tougher fight than Tank was. And this is where I'm a bit, I think Rolly's good for the sport. Obviously, he's a kind of, you like him or you hate him kind of character, but I think he really needs to step it up for this fight, and it's a huge challenge. And if he can maybe use his size and power to his advantage, and maybe keep Cruz at bay just a little bit, like Cabrera did at times, I think he could definitely maybe even get the knockout. But for some reason, I just see Isaac Cruz being able to, just continually put the pressure on for it the full 12 rounds. And it's those moments of inactivity from Rolly for me where that's going to be the difference, where he's, just looking to counter punch or box from the back foot. That's where I'm a bit hesitant. But, like you said, if Rolly can maybe be a bit more aggressive and make Isaac Cruz respect him early in the fight, then, we maybe got a good fight in our hands, for the, you never know. But that's kind of my thoughts on how that goes. But I'm going to be I'm going to side with Cruz for this one.
No, I totally understand why you would side with Cruz. I think you're right. He has tremendous pressure, and he's fallen short in most of his big fights, and maybe this is the one that he wins. I mean, if he gets a belt, then the 140 division becomes just entirely different. You have Devin Haney fighting Garcia. You have Teofimo out there. You have Subriel Matias, and then Isaac Cruz. All
Yeah.
those fights, no matter how you put it. Imagine Haney and Cruz. Cruz, like Haney.
Yeah.
I love Haney, but Cruz is going to hit Haney once or twice, and
Mhm.
you'll see if Haney has a good chin. And I mean, we're going to see it with Ryan too, but
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
I would love any of those fights. And look, Cruz is no slouch. I was like one of the very few people when he fought Gervonta Tank Davis to be like, I think Cruz can give him a really good fight. When I forgot who dropped out at the last moment
Oh, I
for
can't
that fight.
remember.
Yeah, but somebody had dropped out last second. I was like, wow, this is a much better fight. But yeah, Cruz, he could get the job done. I mean, Rolly's such a wild card, right? He on paper, he's big, strong, has power, but then he goes in the fight, and for some reason, like you said, he gets rocked by a Barroso, who is said to have tremendous power. But 41 years old, you got to beat him. You're in the prime of your life, and you're a champion essentially now.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so
Exactly.
yeah, I don't blame you for picking Cruz. I mean, yeah,
But it should be a good fight though, regardless. I'm looking forward to it. And
definitely interesting.
yeah. And I believe there's some other we won't go into too much detail, but I think Lara's also on the card. The the Cuban, he's still going.
Those
uh,
Cubans, I mean, they
yeah.
fight till they're like 45. It's insane.
I'm
Good
just
for him.
checking. I'm just checking to see who's actually
I think it's Michael. Is it Rivera? It's not Rivera. It's Michael something. Um,
let's see. It is it's Zafara, the Australian guy. Don't know if you've heard of him.
Michael
Zarafa?
Zarafa. Okay.
Michael Zarafa, yeah, that's it, yeah. Um, I think he fought like Kell Brook at one point or something like that. That's the last time I remember seeing him.
You
Got
know how it is with Arislan Lara. You know what he's going to
yeah,
bring to the table.
yeah, yeah. It's well, as a boxing purist, Josh, we love seeing we love seeing a Cuban fight every night just to see like their footwork and how they move around the ring. But I can't see that fight lighting up the whole show, but you never know.
Yeah,
And
sometimes Lara comes out to knock somebody out, and it could be interesting.
yeah, and then there's Cesar Martinez, believe he's a super flyweight, or might still be at flyweight. I don't know what that fight's at, and he's facing a guy called Cordova. I've never actually heard of him. And then Mendoza is actually on the card as well, who lost to
Yeah,
or
that's
who beat Fundora and also lost to Tszyu. So good to see him getting a payday, another one. So, but yeah, no, it
yeah. I'm
should be a good.
assuming if sorry to cut you off. I think
No,
if
it's
he
okay.
loses to Zhu, he'll probably end up fighting Mendoza again just to get that rematch. Maybe get the run back.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a good call actually. And no, it should be an interesting fight. I believe it's at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas as well. So I can't see
Okay.
that event selling out either. I don't know about you, Josh. Like, this doesn't seem like a pay-per-view event, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how it does to the numbers. But I sometimes these events that actually end up being the best. So we'll see what happens with it. But I'm looking forward to it.
Agreed. And sorry to go off on kind of a tangent, but one thing I've been noticing is I I think a lot of promoters are, I don't want to sit here and say they're adopting the UFC model, but I do think they're putting together better cards where like the main events aren't as top heavy in terms of purses. So like for this card, you have a couple of good like mid-level fights, right? Like you have some
Yeah.
like Tim Tszyu and Fundora. It's a good solid fight. Like in terms of like if we were to watch Showtime back in the day or HBO, it would be the main event. It wouldn't be a pay-per-view attraction, but I think they're trying to stack the cards more, and especially with this grab of content by streamers, as you notice, like Apple TV is trying to play sports. You have ESPN that's trying to stream more sports, right? With ESPN Plus. But now you have Amazon trying to become a player in the content market with NFL, and now they're trying to get more content in boxing. I think like Al Heyman and Top Rank, they're really trying to put together better cards. I mean, then you got the Zone, of course, which was the originator of the streaming platform for sports, and internationally they stream everything. So I'm curious to see more or less what's going on, but I don't think at this point they really care as much about like the pay-per-view buys. I think they're just trying to put as much content as they can on the platform, and I could be wrong. I mean, you always have like a Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, like that's going to push pay-per-view buys, right?
Yeah.
I'm hoping this does better than Devin Haney and Regis Prograis, which they never really put out the numbers until like 2 months later. But I think it could be formidable, and let's say it does like 50K buys. What is that? Like 5 million for the purse?
Yeah.
Figure at like 70-ish per thing. You could at least pay for the card, and hopefully it's a success because everyone has Amazon Prime, I think, at this point.
Exactly. So no, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to it anyway. I think especially the Rolly Cruz fight, I'm probably looking forward to that more, but I'm intrigued to see how Fundora does as well. But should be a interesting clash. And then we've got over in the UK on Easter Sunday, we've got Wardley versus Clarke, and it's a big card actually. At the O2 in London. We've also got Marku and Congo at welterweight. Babic is also fighting the Croatia. That Croatian, well, I think he's at Bridger weight at the moment. We've also got Ben Whittaker's also back in action, so see what moves he does. And then we've also got Vita O'Reilly and Lamau at cruiserweight. So yes, really, that's also another. It's kind of similar to this PBC card. It's it's not top of the bill pay-per-view per se, but some really good competitive fights in there potentially. And yeah, I think obviously the main event in that card is Wardley Clarke, and really I'm glad they're finally got this over the line to make this fight happen. I really like, we were just talking before we came on, Josh, about Fabio Wardley. He's looking really good, isn't he? He's really improving, and this is a big challenge against Clarke, who he's obviously an Olympian. I believe it was a bronze at Tokyo he got. He is quite slick himself, and it's Wardley's more experience in the pro game, where Clarke's obviously got more of that amateur pedigree, and he's just kind of coming into the pros. So yeah, it could go either way. This is a kind of a 50-50 for me. I think if I had to side with someone, it would probably have to be Wardley. I think he's just in good form at the moment, and Clarke hasn't really been tested at the pro level anyway. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how this goes. But yeah, love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm actually going to side with you and agree with you in the sense that I think Fabio Wardley has been improving tremendously, especially in that last fight where he got a tremendous knockout. I think most people thought that could have been a 50-50 fight. In this one, I do think Clarke is very good. I saw that fight with Marius Vach, and Vach or Vach is really awkward. I kind of like his Philly shell style. He likes to switch. He is pretty formidable. So the fact that he disposed of Vach the way he did, I think this is going to be a good fight. And that amateur pedigree again is underrated in the sense that you still do need to adjust to the pro, but you see guys like Keyshawn, you see guys like Fraser Clarke is a perfect example as well. Lara was also one. Gamboa, someone that had really good amateur pedigree. He can make this fight extremely interesting, and of course the poster boy Lomachenko. He's like
Yep.
the best amateur of all time. So I think he could really make this a good fight. But I'm leaning with Wardley. I do think that what you guys are doing over there in the UK and Europe in terms of boxing, I love the fact that people fight each other, and you'll get matchups like this with similar to Billy Joe Saunders and Eubank. You get fights that down the line, if they waited, would be massive. But
Yeah.
having this fight now to kind of establish yourself as that top tier talent, it's great, and I'm really, really happy they're putting together this card.
No, definitely. I think it should be a good event, and I think, like we're saying about just Clarke and his amateur pedigree there, Josh. I think I can see him winning this fight as well. That's the thing. I think as much as I am favoring Wardley to get the victory, I think Clarke. He's very slick actually. And the only kind of area for Wardley for me, I watched back just that previous fight against Adelaide where he won, and he does kind of on the inside, and as much as that's probably how he won the fight actually, was he caught Adelaide on the inside eventually, but Adelaide was roughing him up on the inside, and he was not comfortable in that position, and that's something maybe Clarke can look to exploit in those positions. And he's a bit more slick. He's not as rugged. He doesn't leave himself as open. He's more defensively responsible because of that amateur pedigree. So, yeah, I just think it could be, he could surprise us all. You might put on, might absolutely dominate Wardley for all we know. But I just feel like Wardley, he's younger, he's more athletic, and he's good at boxing on the back foot as well. And I think he's got the power as well to really cause Clarke some problems. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that fight. And I guess the other kind of bigger fight on the card, which kind of social media will be looking at anyway, is Vidal Riley and his fight. And Lawal is, he's a big tough guy as well. He's a bit like Adelaide in that respect, who Wardley just fought. And Riley is obviously, he's got a bit more of amateur pedigree as well, and he's a bit more of a boxer, I guess. He's got a more fluid skill set, I'd say, and interesting to see how he does. And I think as well with Riley, he's trying to get away from this kind of like social media presence, or social media personality, should I say. And I think he's been putting on good performances, but I think this is a big step up for him at this level anyway, if he wants to go on to compete at cruiserweight, like for world championships anyway, or titles. So yeah, what's your thoughts on Vidal Riley? Do you like him as a fighter, or
like you were saying, he hasn't really been up against anyone that is, I guess, substantive in the sense that they're seasoned veteran, someone that's rough and tough, someone that's going to really push him. But I really, you don't know. He only has 10 fights, right? So I hope he can transfer that social media fame and those clips and make himself into a really good boxer. I do think Lawal has a pretty good resume. I was just looking him up a little earlier before. I think he has the better fights. He fought Isaac Chamberlain, who was no scrubby. He's a pretty good fighter. He's definitely fought the better, more seasoned fighters, but people move their fighters along a certain way if they feel like they're going to win the fight. So I don't see Vidal's people. Am I saying that right?
yeah, Riley Vidal, yeah,
Yeah, Riley Vidal. I don't think Vidal's people will put him in a a position to, I guess, drop the bag, as they say, right? He's trying to be a pretty big household name, and they're trying to make a lot of money off of him. So I think he'll prevail in this one. If I had to pick between the two, I think he has the skill set to perhaps win a decision, and come away scot free.
Yeah. And I believe the other, I don't know if you know much about them, Josh, but there's Marku and Congo. I think Congo, he works under Ben Davidson. So he lost his last fight, I believe, for the British title at welterweight, I believe. But Marku, he's got a big fan base, Albanian. And
Florian, yeah. I've seen him fight,
yeah. So
he's
he kind of reminds me
was
of
a
Isaac Cruz.
kickboxer, right?
Yeah, originally a kickboxer, yeah.
Yeah, it was I remember seeing him fight Chris Jenkins.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a pretty good fight.
Yeah. But he kind of reminds me of Isaac Cruz, just his kind of come forward approach and pressure style. But yeah, it should be interesting fight. Congo, he's more of a boxer, I guess. And then he's got Ben Davidson in his corner. So, can they kind of come up with the game plan to maybe, beat Marku in this fight? It'll be interesting to see. And then we've also got Ben Whittaker as well on the card. I don't think it's been confirmed who's fighting yet, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about him. Obviously, he's going viral in social media, with his moves in the ring, and I like it personally. I really enjoy it.
I do too. I do too. I mean, at the end of the day, right? You're going out there. You want to put on a show. You want to essentially impose your will on someone, and if you can get away with it, why not? I mean, I feel like when you put essentially your health on the line and going out there, and he wants to take the risks he's taking, he's going about it the right way. How viral did he go with that performance? I mean, I think I saw that clip rehashed of him doing the dancing and showboating over and over. It got so many views, and he's the talk of the card. I mean, Fabio Wardley and Clarke is a great fight, but everyone's going to want to see what Ben Whittaker has to do next, and I think it's good for boxing. Truthfully, I mean, Prince Nassim, when he was doing his antics, a lot of people hated it, but then now you see it 20 years later or 15 years later, people are like, I miss Prince Nassim. He was such a tremendous talent. You see the clips of him doing all the moves, and sure, he lost to Marco Antonio Barrera and then kind of fell into obscurity. But until it happens, why not?
Exactly. Yeah, why not? And that's the thing. It's like, I think, he's so early in his career, I guess, his professional career anyway. And it's it's the step up fights we want to see eventually, pretty soon in the next year or two. And how does he do against the better guys? But at the moment, I think it's about building his name, and this is the way he's doing it. If you watch him in the amateurs, he would showboat every now and again, but he wasn't as bad as he is now. And I think that's just because of the level of the opponent in front of him. Like, I think
I agree.
if you put in someone like a Buatsi or a Yard or someone like that in with him, I think, he might showboat, but I think he would take it a lot more seriously because they're obviously a better opponent. And I think I'm really looking forward to see how he progresses, and we'll see. I'm sure we'll get some more viral clips this weekend, but he's an exciting fighter, and I'm looking forward to see how he does. And
agreed.
Yeah, and then the other fight we have on the card is Babic, who I actually really enjoy watching. This guy, I think he always comes to fight. And he's fighting a guy called Robinson, who I don't know if you've seen him. He kind of, from Rocky 4, is it Drago? He dresses like Drago and he kind of looks like him. And it's just, I just find it so weird. That's like his persona. and he's like, he's just an English guy, and but I actually fancy Babic for that fight. If I'm being honest, I think Robinson, he's he's a big guy. He's like 6'5" or something, but he's just very robotic and it's just laborious, And I think Babic, he's definitely got the power behind him to cause some problems there. So I don't know if you know much about Babic, Josh, or.
I did see one fight of Babic, and I remember the KO being like pretty intense. I think it was I guess against Spillmont.
Yeah.
In December. Yeah, there was like during COVID. Yeah, I remember him knocking someone out. And there was like a pretty big compilation. But other than that, I really haven't watched much of Babic. I guess I could kind of dig up more on him and see more about him. I have never seen Robinson fight, but I'm gonna watch this whole card, and now I'm interested. I mean, we've spoken about a few fights on this card, and it's kind of similar to that PBC card, right?
Yeah,
like you have a bunch of fights where it's like, oh man, that's like a good matchup. So I'll definitely be tuning in, and I'll side with you with Babic based on that one fight I saw.
Yeah. I'm just from watching Robinson in the past, I think he's just he's like I said, he's just very robotic. He's just pretty boring personally to watch, I think personally. But Babic on the other hand, I just think, he comes to fight, he comes to get the knockout, and you never know, he might get caught himself, and I think that should be actually a good fight. And
that's good that
sorry if you go, yeah.
Oh no, I was saying it's good that these fights are getting put together though, regardless. Like you really can't say, oh, this person's going to blow this person out, for the exception of probably Ben Whittaker, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's going to kill whoever he's going to fight. But everyone else, it's like, oh, I could see a position where the other person wins. And I got to say, there's a lot of, I can't believe people are saying that boxing is dead when I feel like we have a good card almost every weekend at this point. It's getting crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I saw I believe it was like Dana White from the UFC. He was like on some podcast, and all the MMA, and he had some MMA guys on there, and they were just talking about like, oh yeah, like they're just basically dissing boxing, just saying like how bad it is now. I'm like, have they not been watching boxing the last year? We've had some huge fights, and huge fights are getting made now, and they're still playing down as if boxing's just dead or like there's no big fights anymore. But it's the opposite. And then even as well after the Fury and Ngannou fight, and I don't want to call anyone out, but there was some other creators I saw, who do cover boxing as well as MMA, and there's quite a few, and they were all saying, oh, boxing's dead, boxing, it's over. I'm just like, what? It's one fight. And as well, the thing that really annoys me about it, Josh, is that boxing isn't defined by one division or one fight. And this is the thing that drives me insane about people that, oh, boxing's dead. Wait, have you ever been in like an amateur boxing gym and seen how busy it is? Like, it's just narrative people play around, and it's the UFC thing, isn't it? It always comes back to that. Oh, they're putting on good cards every week, but so is boxing.
But some of the cards suck too, though. Like, not every UFC card is like this incredible card. I don't get why. I feel like it's more MMA versus boxing and MMA. Like, boxing is its own sport. MMA is its own sport. I appreciate both. I will tell you though, after the Fury and Ngannou fight, when they were saying like, yeah, MMA just killed boxing, when Joshua knocked out Ngannou, I haven't been that happy. And I'm glad that Ngannou's okay. I know he made a bunch of money, but oh man, boxing needed that because it was getting out of control. They had Ngannou like top 2 heavyweights in the world. I'm like, what was going on with this? He was like 10th ranked. Wilder can't beat Ngannou. I'm like,
I know. It's
oh man.
ridiculous. Like,
And
and it's just like it's casuals, isn't it? They don't. And to be fair for that fight, I know we've kind of gone off track, but with Tyson
yeah,
Fury, he clearly didn't prepare for that fight, and
yeah,
he totally
exactly.
underestimated him. Like, and Ngannou, it's not like he was a middleweight. But this is heavyweight boxing. These are big
Mhm.
guys. It just takes one punch sometimes. Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson. Uh, Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua. It can happen in heavyweight boxing. It's not normal. And then, like you said, it's that kind of MMA versus boxing thing, isn't it? Rather than the other way around. So, but yeah. Anyway, we'll head
And
back to on topic. But who we got? We've also got cruiserweight matchup for the WBA Cruiserweight Championship, and it's
I guess Goulamirian.
Goulamirian. That's it. Sorry, and he's fighting Zurdo, uh,
Okay.
which could Zurdo. He's not everyone's cup of tea. He had a good win against Joe Smith in his last fight,
He did.
but
He did.
it didn't light up the boxing world with the performance, but it was still a good performance from his point of view. And he's a tricky fighter. He's a southpaw. He is a big guy. He's a good body puncher actually. And with Gurma, how do you say his name again? Sorry,
Goulamirian.
Goulamirian. Sorry, with Goulamirian, I watched a couple of his fights this week. I wasn't too familiar with him. He's quite straightforward. Uses the high guard, tries to get on the inside, go to the body. He is a reasonable big puncher, but yeah, I think just going off looking at both of them, I think Zurdo should get the win. And I don't really know. He's obviously a world champion. There's some big fights out there. There's Billum Smith. There's Opatea. So could get some big fights. Maybe with Opatea, they're both kind of on the Matchroom Golden Boy. That could maybe happen. So on DAZN, so that's a potential fight. But yeah, I don't think not many people will be keeping an eye on that fight this weekend. I don't think, Josh. But yeah, what's your thoughts on even Zurdo Ramirez?
Look, Zurdo on paper, like you said, lefty, punches hard. Golden Boy has been trying to really promote him well and move him along slowly. I know he does that. He does have that one defeat where he was kind of dominated, but I do appreciate the fact that he switched trainers. He had to kind of make a new camp and refocus, but he only lost one time, and his L isn't a bad L.
Yeah.
I think Zurdo is going to win this, and I think it'll be good for him to get a strap under his name, and then he can fight Opatea and the other guys out there in the division, and hopefully, the cruiserweight. Unfortunately, I think in theory should be such a talented division, right? Like ever since Usyk left, it's kind of been in limbo.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have someone that kind of just consolidates all the belts. You have no question who's the man, and then hopefully they move up to heavyweight, right? Like mostly every cruiserweight eventually tries to fill out a little bit, and now with the bridgerweight division, which I'm still unfamiliar with, and kind of want to see more or less how that plays out. But who knows? These guys can get some big paydays and make some good fights. But
Yeah.
that's kind of my. I mean, in out of all the cards, I probably would say this is like the last ranked in terms of interest for myself. But I'm sure I'll catch up, and it's been good watching a lot more boxing and just following a lot more cards and seeing all the new talent. Like you said, boxing can't die when it's just so worldwide. Like there's always a new prospect, there's always a new amateur, there's always a new story. I mean, look at 135. It wasn't what it was a few years ago. Nobody was talking about 135. And then you get, Devin Haney, Teofimo, Loma. You have this like storm of new talent that comes in, and I think boxing is in good hands if these kind of cards keep happening, and you just always see boxing. It kind of feels not like the old days, because the old days are always looked at with rose-colored glasses
Yeah.
and are always going to seem like, oh, it was better back then. But the fact that we're getting constant, decent cards that you can, sit down on a Saturday night or a Friday night or even a Thursday night and just enjoy it. And that's what the sport's about, and just staying busy, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's nice to see guys fighting 3 or 4 times a year now versus like back in the day, you wait for one fight or 2 fights and you kind of just call it quits for the rest of the year. I like seeing the activity and should be good.
Yeah.
Good for
Definitely.
Zurdo.
Yeah. No, I think if he can get, because he's a tough guy from what I've seen those 2 fights I watched this week, and I think if he was able to get a victory, I think, that's good for him, and I'm sure he'll go on to maybe unify or try and unify a title anyway. So yeah, it should be. I'll definitely check it out. But like as you said, it's probably at the bottom of the list. But you never know; it could be an absolute classic. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. But speaking about what you're just saying, Josh, about how there's so many good cards coming up and young talent. There's obviously the big one in April. I know you've
Yeah,
been keeping an eye on this. So Haney versus Garcia. I think everyone is going to be tuning in for this one, and I
I
think
agree.
it's potential. I did a video on this just recently, and just looking at both guys, I think Ryan actually has it's really hard because of all the stuff that's been going on outside the ring, and it
Mhm.
does concern me slightly going into it, how he will actually perform. And I kind of don't know how he will come out. We've seen him come out very aggressively before, while we also saw in his last fight versus Duarte, he was a lot more defensive. Uh, but credit to Duarte, he's a strong, big puncher as well. So I can understand why Garcia was a bit more defensive and looked to counter punch. Whereas Haney, he put on arguably his best performance in his last fight against Regis Prograis, who, personally, I really rate Prograis. I think he's a great fighter. And Haney, he beat him all 12 rounds. And
Yeah,
it's kind
that was brutal.
yeah, and I was not expecting that. I thought it was going to be a much tougher fight. And with this one, they obviously know each other from the amateurs. They've fought 6 times. I think 3 apiece. I believe Haney won the last 3. However, this is the pro game. It's different slightly. In the sense that they're in there to kill each other, and they'll both be wanting to win this one badly. But yeah, Josh, I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you kind of think's going to win this one, or how it can maybe play out.
I'm really excited for this fight. At first, especially in the beginning when Ryan's like film of him training and of course all of the episodes that he was having on Twitter and Instagram, it was really hard for me to think that this was going to be that competitive. I thought Devin Haney, given the fact that he's the ultimate professional, whether you like his style or not, the guy's always in shape. He's a tremendous counterpuncher. He's coming off again his biggest victory, coming off of beating Loma and Regis Prograis. And he fought Gambosis, who was another formidable fighter. I think Devin Haney is tremendously defensive. I think his jab is good. But I think for the first time in a very long time, since maybe, and I would say that he was still faster than Linares. I think he's fighting somebody that has Ryan's hand speed is honestly, I could say probably up there for the fastest in boxing. His hand speed's tremendous. His footwork's a little sloppy at times, and I know he gets flack for being a little defensively reckless. Of course, people are going to bring up that horrible shoulder roll he brought out. He had that weird shoulder roll that he was basically turning away from everyone. But I gotta say, I think Haney should be favored. I think Haney should win the fight, but I'm not as confident as I was when this whole thing first started. I don't think it was a troll with him and his mental illness and I guess his manic episodes. I don't think it was trolling. I think he was legitimately going through an episode at the time, but he seems to have reeled himself in. I just think tactically, Devin Haney's jab is very educated. I don't think he takes the risks that Ryan Garcia does, but that could also be to his detriment, right? Ryan's going to take risks in this fight. He's going to have to. He's going to have to throw combinations. But the length, the height, if Devin really tries to stop Ryan like he's saying he's going to, I think he could run into a hook. The left hook is the punch you need when someone likes to throw a right hand and be in that Philly shell. If Ryan is going to win, he's going to have to box. I think he's going to have to try to catch Devin coming in or trying to overextend himself. The best way to lure in a defensive fighter is by being defensive yourself, where they have to kind of put some output in order to take a risk and reach towards you. He is taller. He does have a hand speed advantage. So if Ryan boxes and gains some synergy with Derek James, I think he can do well because Oscar Duarte, like at first I didn't really know much about him, and then I started like watching his film. He's not like that easy of a fighter to beat. And Ryan got hit. I mean, Duarte hit him with some really big shots, and I think that's why Ryan was like, "Oh wow, like I actually have to, be a little on my P's and Q's and box a little more." He got the job done. The guy has a tremendous chin. He hit Ryan with his best shots, and Ryan took the shots pretty well. I think Tank has power, right, as well. Like he's probably one of the hardest hitters in the game, and Ryan took his best shot on the chin and got up, right, like. He was coming forward. Tank caught him with a perfectly timed shot, dropped him, had his nose bleeding. Ryan got up and wasn't like wobbly. He didn't look like Adrian Broner after Maidana hit him. He got up. The body shot is a body shot. I mean, they say he quit. I don't think he quit. I just think maybe he had a rib injury. I don't know. Like everyone always has an injury going into a fight. It was a good shot. So it brings the coward out of everyone. And like you said with Errol Spence, it kind of sucks that, when people take a risk to give you the fight you want, then people are like, oh, that's it, Tank beats you. You can't ever fight again for a title or, be in the mix with a bunch of good fighters. So like people have to kind of make up their mind. Do you want to see these fights where the best fight the best and then, they lose, they move on to another fight? Or do you want someone to stay undefeated? Because like the messaging is mixed in my opinion, and I don't know why. Like Ryan, for whatever you have to say, and Oscar De La Hoya as well, criticize them all you want, but they're out there making these fights.
That's true. No, 100%. I know that's the thing. It's like I think with Ryan, it's like that was a huge risk taking on Tank. And obviously it was at a catch weight as well. There was the rehydration clause. So he was limited going into it. Like that's the reality. As much as Tank, is a dangerous fighter regardless, Ryan was depleted. Let's be honest, if we're being honest. And not to give him any excuses, I thought, because I watched it back last week, that fight, and there were some points Ryan was really putting the pressure on Tank. And
he hurt him.
He hurt him, and even after Tank knocked Ryan down, Ryan still came forward at times, and Tank looked, very, very nervous at times, with Ryan coming forward, because Ryan's got power as well. You just need to look at his record. He's got a lot of knockouts, and
no, he does,
because Devin and him have fought each other in the amateurs so many times. Like you said, I think I can see Devin being very defensive in this fight. And I think Ryan won't have a choice but to come forward. That's just the way I see it play. I'd be very surprised if Ryan tries to lure in Devin. And I just can't see it happening. And I think it will be Ryan having to push the pace. And like you kind of said, it's like obviously outside the ring, he's been very manic in his behavior, and how he changes his mind. And he even said that after facing Tank about how at the time when he went in with him after the first round, he just thought, you know what, I'm just going to lay it on him. And, who's to say he might not do the same with Devin, but I hope he's just a little bit more disciplined in his approach, and he isn't as, wild, I guess, when he comes forward. And the other issue I have with Ryan is, and I touched on this in my recent video as well, my breakdown, was, he just doesn't take body shots well. He just, and that's part of the reason why I went into that weird shell stance against Duarte. To protect his body, and whether there's a recurring injury, I don't know. He pushes his arms out, to create the range with his lead hand, and even parry with his backhand, and it leaves him open for the overhand, or even the body shot. So I think that's an area Devin's going to look to exploit or try and set him up with something. He'll target that, but I can see him targeting the body early. With the jab, and then maybe trying to set up the overhand right potentially. If he manages to lower Ryan's guard, I can kind of see that playing out. But yeah, I just feel that Ryan, he can be quite undisciplined in his approach, and that's his issue, isn't it? And also it can be in his favor as well, because like you said, Josh, he'll take risks, and whereas Devin's very disciplined. So yeah, it's a difficult one because I want to see a competitive fight, but for me, just going off that Regis Prograis fight, I can kind of see Devin kind of dominating this fight personally. However, that's not to say Ryan can't catch him with a left hook or even a right hand at some point and hurt him, and that might just swing the momentum in his favor. So that's kind of my thoughts on it, Josh. Who knows how it will turn out? I think it kind of depends on Ryan as well. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, because one thing about Devin Haney, if you put both fighters in a vacuum and you had to pick, all right, who's going to have the temperament that if the fight comes to a standstill where no one's really approaching anyone, it's neutral, no one really has the range, who's going to have the discipline to be like, all right, I'm going to do what I have to do to win. I don't care about the fans. I don't care about hey, is the pace happening as fast as I want it to be? Who's going to be like, all right, I'm cool with winning a decision on the back foot and not looking great. And the guy I see having that discipline and all right, I'm going to try to win. I don't care how I win. I don't care what anyone says about my win. A W is a W, and that's Devin Haney. I feel like Ryan really does take a lot of the criticism to heart, and it kind of dictates his fights. I mean, the one time he got up off the deck and he gained a lot of respect was when Luke Campbell dropped him. He was trying to box. He was trying to time Luke Campbell's shot to the body where he kind of just parry it, and then he got caught with that left. But once he got hit, he did get up, and what did he start doing? All right, I'm going to find the punch I want to fight. And, that's just a sign of a guy that needs to be first. He's not comfortable being second. He always wants to be first. And, there's nothing wrong with that, but the good counter punchers want you to be first. They're counter punchers. They need punches to counter, right? So if you give them enough, they're gonna find that counter. But one thing about Ryan, I saw a lot of good things that Derek James was working with him recently on the pads. You see him really trying to work on attacking that up jab. Derek James really has him on the pads, throwing the jab up, and Ryan's trying to parry it. Yeah. I don't think Devin Haney has that great of a hook, in my opinion. So I think he can get away with trying to knock the jab down and then come over the top of the right hand, or knock it down, throw his own hook. So that's an area he could maybe exploit, but I don't know. Again, I think for the first time, especially when he fought Luke Campbell, he took that long period of time off where he was supposed to fight Javier Fortuna. And the Javier Fortuna fight, no one really knew what we were going to get with Ryan, and no one really knew why he took off, right? But I think we're finally seeing what he's actually been up against with his manic episodes, um, the calamity that is his life. Like sometimes you never know what is he about God? Is he about like women? Is he about like drinking? It's like you never know. It's always a different lane that he's going down and traveling down. You don't know if it's an act. Oh no, but this might be him. I mean, look, recently he posted on buying people BBLs, like Brazilian butt lifts, and giving
Yeah, I
people
saw that. Yeah.
plastic surgery, and then he goes, "I love Jesus. I want to save the kids." I'm like, what's going on here? So I think we're seeing that, and with social media, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that everyone that enters the ring has a certain level of insanity, because it's hard, right? Like to go in the ring, you have to overcome your
Yeah.
fight or flight response. You have to, especially if you get hurt or knocked down, you have to overcome adversity to get back in the ring and have the confidence to be able to stay within your own like boxing skills and not go crazy. But I wonder if he has the ability to kind of quiet all the
Yeah.
doubters, just really lock in. And we don't know. He's 25, right? They're both very young. So
Yeah.
regardless, after this fight, both kids can essentially come back and rebuild. I think in terms of big pay-per-view, I think Ryan, if he loses, maybe gets one more shot at a big fight. But he's always going to sell. I mean, he's already made so much money, so who knows? I think he can be actually. I really echo the fact that he's kind of similar to De La Hoya. De La
Yeah.
Hoya always fell short in the big fights, but people paid to watch him.
Yeah.
And that's no knock on De La Hoya. I really like his boxing ability. And, but he fell short against Trinidad, fell short against Shane Mosley.
Yeah.
I mean, the Trinidad fight, I thought probably he got the decision, where it was like
Mhm.
very close.
Yeah, close fight.
Um,
Yeah.
Lost to Mosley twice, lost to, was another guy he
Hopkins.
lost to? Hopkins. Well, the Hopkins, that was like him jumping up. Like that was a big, big jump, because at 160, De La Hoya was like soft. He wasn't, like
Uh-huh.
he wasn't like a true 160 pounder.
Yeah.
But yeah, he always seemed to fall short. The Mayweather fight, same thing. Got
Yeah.
close, but
Yeah.
just couldn't get the job done.
Pacquiao.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah.
Pacquiao, yeah, same. Like he's always in a big fight, but rarely ever does he come out on top. The second Mosley lost too, I felt he won. So maybe
Mhm.
he was on the short end of the stick. But
Yeah.
maybe that's going to be Ryan Garcia. Who knows? I hope not. I mean, if he beats Devin Haney, this division becomes insane, because I'm assuming you would get Teofimo, or actually, there's probably a rematch. There's definitely a rematch clause
Yeah,
if
no
Ryan
doubt.
wins,
I
for
imagine
sure.
Devon's probably put that in. Yeah, no, I guess like 140 is a good division. There's obviously Matthias, Tszyu, so some
Mhm.
big fights, and like, yeah, and if Ryan was to win, like, yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that would.
it would be huge. I think it'd be good for boxing, if that was to
Mhm.
happen. Not so much for Devon. I think I think Devon will be wanting to get the win. Might not entertain us unless Ryan,
Mhm.
puts it on him, and you never know. But I think, yeah, everyone's going to be talking about this and looking forward to it. And I think just going off what you're saying. Um, I guess you're kind of siding Haney though, Josh. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for my official prediction, I'm sorry, I was just like playing devil's advocate for both sides. Um,
No, that's all
I
right. Yeah.
I I think Devin Haney wins. I think it's going to be. I don't want to sit here and say like an easy decision, but
Yeah.
I think Devin Haney wins like 8-4, around there. Like it's going to be exciting. Ryan may hit him, hurt him a little bit, but other than that, I can't right now. I don't. I can't go against Devin Haney. I mean, he's, in my opinion, I rank him, Tio, and at the top of the division. I think Devin Haney is a nightmare matchup for anybody, because, like I said, he's willing to be whatever he has to be in order to win the fight. And he's never going to make it easy for you. He has elite movement, the best jab probably in the division, right? Maybe, I mean, some people say he has the best jab in boxing. I don't think so. I think B-Ball has the best jab.
Yeah.
But in terms of like jab, great lead hand, and defensively responsible. I mean, Loma lit him up a little bit, but Loma makes any matchup hard. And eventually, when he catches you, like catches your rhythm, catches your timing. I mean, he made Tszyu look bad at times too. So yeah, I'm going with Devin Haney. I hope Ryan makes it exciting. I'm a fan. I really thought I was probably in the minority that Ryan was going to beat Tank based off what I saw with Fortuna. But I remember watching the Tank and Ryan fight and getting upset because he just started rushing for no reason, right? And if we could be patient, I think Ryan is a tremendous talent. He has all the physical attributes. But Devin Haney, probably a wide decision, 8-4, maybe 9-3, with some exciting moments in between. I'm watching regardless if it's a 12-round domination. So
exactly,
I got to side with Devin Haney.
Yeah, I'm probably at the moment that's totally me as well. I think I can see him pretty much not dominating, but I can see him taking a lot of the rounds basically. I think unless Ryan can pull something out the bag at some point or do something different to throw Devin off his game. Otherwise, I think Devin Haney should probably get a points decision, in my opinion. But this is boxing, as we know. Never know. Garcia might be able to pull it off. So, but
Josh,
Josh,
we'll leave underdogs too. So
I know you love the underdogs as well, Josh. So. But I'm looking forward to this weekend, and obviously the Haney Garcia fight should be good. But as always, man, thanks so much for coming on. Do you want to tell people where they can find? Yeah, no, it's all right. Do you want to tell them where they can find you?
Yes, you guys can find me on Instagram at Good Boxing Content and at Good Boxing Content on YouTube. I was doing the podcast before. It was Good Boxing Podcast, but I'm thinking about bringing that back, maybe doing some live shows and making some more videos similar to you with the long form content. I'll probably try to get back in a good workflow. Just with the kiddo growing up, he's finally sleeping well and whatnot. I'm kind of getting into a good rhythm, and I finally got the office set up too. So it should be good. I'm excited to be back and to remain abreast in boxing. It's fun speaking boxing. And for a while, I was trying to fill like a void with some of the other content that I was trying to be like, all right, let me consume some content. And it just feels good to put content out there. And your content's always great. I feel like it's a good time to kind of get back in the game, and especially with boxing being so good.
Exactly. No, I've always enjoyed your opinion like on boxing itself, Josh, and always enjoyed watching when you were doing the podcast. So it's great to see that you're back doing stuff, even like on Instagram. I like the stuff that you're posting on there as well. So yeah, guys, make sure to go check out. I'll leave it in the description below for you guys to check out as well. That's fine. All right, Josh, appreciate it, man, and enjoy the rest of your day over. I believe it's Texas, yeah. So
yes, Texas.
Awesome. All right, have a good one, man. All right.
All right, you too, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thanks. Enjoy the fights when they come. All right, thanks.
All right, you too.